Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TAF Solutions podcast, where today we're going to discuss a little bit about, let's see, what is on the docket for today. Basically, just working on making sure people understand the differences and challenges of what's happening in today's climate for being an SMB, and more importantly, I just kind of talking about some of the updates that we're going to go through on, just how things are evolving with digital presence and some other things. But first and foremost, I want to mention A, I've had a lot of conversations lately with business owners. B, and there's a real common feeling right now. Things are just feeling harder than they used to. A lot of people feel this way. There's a sentiment. And I think the main thing that people need to kind of understand about this current situation isn't that you're not giving the same amount of effort that you were previously giving. You're just getting different results. Now, what do I mean by that, right? What are some of the bigger challenges with that? The question is, why does this feel harder, I guess? There's some reasons for that. First and foremost, there's just more competition. A lot of people, and especially in certain industries, are no longer working for larger companies. You may have noticed that there's a lot of people who are getting laid off from various companies that they used to work for. Things are changing in the landscape of corporations, of not just that, there's more artificial intelligence taking over some repeatable jobs that had one function that you just did over and over again. So basically, if your job was to push a button, you're probably not going to be doing that job anymore. I know I'm oversimplifying things, but that is true, right? And of course, there's just also more expectations. Your clients expect more. Your vendors expect more. And what I mean by more is you're really kind of getting more expectations in the front of like being found online, of ease of access to your services. Effectively really trying to find people are trying to be a little more convenient in what they expect. So what I mean by that specifically, let's talk a bit about that. What kind of expectations of convenience are we talking about here? Well, if for instance, you're a restaurant, right? People expect you to either have access to an application on their phone, a web app, for instance. So at the very minimum, a website. But B, of course, they're looking for an application where they can easily purchase from you in advance without actually having to talk to you on the phone or email you. Just basically check out right there. They'll probably still come pick up, but there's also a good chance they'll deliver or ask for delivery. Now, the thing is people think that, if I'm going to get online orders from people as a restaurant, that I'll just use DoorDash or, Favor or Grubhub or the other Uber Eats, the other 1,000+ different versions of what DoorDash is basically doing, and they're not wrong, right? They're probably going to order through that, but I think a lot more people are inclined to try to order directly from the actual restaurant now, and the reason why is simply because DoorDash charges a ton of extra fees. Delivery is really unreliable because you're getting people who are doing this as a side hustle, side gig, aren't really, they're not getting a lot of money from that, so they're not putting as much effort behind it to make sure that you're getting the best kind of quality of service. And that's not to knock people who do those things, because really, I got a lot of appreciation for people who do that stuff on the side. The problem is, of course, the same. I don't want to, people don't want to have to pay a whole bunch for delivery, but it it does cost. And what we'll also find, we've in the metrics, by the way, just so um, it's been proven that less people outside of millennials are ordering DoorDash and other delivery type services. Most are not ordering delivery like that. Only really millennials are. I want to say it was like 80%, 85%. of the amount of people or that were ordering these delivery services in the past couple of years have been millennials. So you have to understand that that is not something in the near future that is going to really expand. So it behooves a restaurant to actually be able, in the convenience factor and the expectation, to make their own version of online ordering, right? And so that's a good point right there. And other expectations you can probably see. Let's say another industry, for instance, like the healthcare industry. People don't want to go and fill out your forms and documents when they show up for their appointment because we live in a time period, right, when you should be able to do that before you even show up for your appointment. You should be able to fill it out online, have it automatic, submit automatically. It should automatically update in your systems. If you're still living in a pen and paper world and you're a healthcare provider, I think that you are playing with fire, significantly so, because there comes a point where people just don't want to use you, even though you're in network and nearby, because there are so many other people doing the same thing that you're doing. Again, I mentioned earlier, there's more competition. So you need to digitize. And if not anything else, you need to lean hard into digitizing. And I know it's difficult for the healthcare industry because you have to worry about HIPAA compliancy. But let's be honest here. If you actually do digitize, you will be more secure, actually, if you are digitizing and leaning in to the secure way of doing that, instead of just like, I'm not saying use all the stuff that's available to consumers, because now you're also playing with fire. But while paper folders certainly have a certain kind of security because they're just simply not online at all, it doesn't change the fact that anybody can roll into your office and look at your files, and thus it is no longer secure. With digital security and everything being digitized, they wouldn't even be able to access the system that you're on. Thus, they couldn't, even if they were found your files, they wouldn't be able to actually do anything with it, right? So this is the reality, right? These expectations make it difficult to do work. It feels harder to do the work, and it's not exactly the thing. I think people also tend not to realize nowadays is that people research a heck of a lot more these days before buying. They're a lot more informed, and what's worse is they have less patience overall, uh, and they're going to make decisions basically on their own with no input from you. So you're not imagining it, guys, is what I'm saying. The environment has actually changed quite a bit. So, and then let's compound another thing on top of all of this. It is harder to find than ever reliable employees. It's hard to find people who actually care. It's hard to find consistency. It's not even just about hiring anymore. It's about finding people you can trust to actually represent your business. There's a lot of real reasons for that. Training does take a lot of time, for instance, and it's a real pain right there already because it does cost a lot of money for your business. The turnover that happens because you find people who unfortunately just aren't reliable, it really kills the momentum of your business as well. The inconsistency hurts your customer experience, so people don't actually know what's going on there, and then delegation just feels risky at that point because you don't know if they're gonna if people you're actually like bringing into the company are actually going to be around in the next couple of months. And a lot of reasons for this vary. But what I think I find happening a lot lately is even when you are paying people well, because not paying people well is you're guaranteed to have all those pain points and then some. All right. So I'm not even going to talk about that because you need to pay your people well so they'll stick around. That's a different situation altogether. But if you are paying well, they still feel and still things still end up becoming inconsistent. So what this turns into is that a lot of business owners are kind of stuck doing everything themselves. It's not because they don't want, they want to, but they can't trust that it'll actually get done right, the things that need to be done. So what do we do about that, right? You know, because the problem is that you can find people, but you can't get them to actually do anything, the things that you need them to do. And everything ends up backing up, right? You become the bottleneck yourself. All the responses to your customers get delayed. Your marketing gets inconsistent. Operation just basically comes to a standstill. That's it's not just one big problem that we're talking about here. It's a bunch of small things that end up getting completely just decimated over time. So the solution is really to vet your employees a heck of a lot more before they become your employees. And unfortunately, that also costs time and money. So what do we do about it? Well, your best bet is to get other people to actually vet your employees for you. And what I mean by that is you go to these agencies that will hire people based on that they have vetted, and then you'll actually work with them to get people and work with you. Uh, but even that is not foolproof. And I think people also struggle with that as well. You really want to find people that you know who have had employees that they trust, that to recommend their friends, their family, things of that nature. And that usually seems to be the best method that I've seen so far, on top of agencies. Okay. Who also specialize in this, who they have also been vetted as well, right? Ask your fellow ask people around you, other business owners. That is the best method I can think of right there, is to ask other business owners what they've been doing and what they found to be successful. Now, listen, what actually helps in the interim is focusing on what matters. If you can't find good help, everything's changing. It's more difficult than ever than actually deal with the expectations on top of this and the competition. The core thing is still the same that you need to focus on, fortunately. You don't have to do anything special. Remember to focus on your customers that exist, right? Not just focus on new, focus on your existing, focus on communicating. Well, more importantly, as well, focus on your visibility. Now, great way to do this, of course, would be to focus on weekly check-ins when it comes to your customers, respond to your reviews, and then create a basic posting rhythm as well when it comes for visibility. So for customers, check in weekly. Again, communication, review, response, that kind of stuff, and also respond to any social media that you've been doing, even if nobody has responded. All right, just put in additional information on a post, make it seem like you're active. Okay. Then, of course, more importantly, that posting rhythm. I mentioned social media. You need to do that. Well, you don't need perfection. Okay. You need to create the semblance of reliability, right? You need to make people believe that you are reliable through your actions online, not just in person. In person, it's easy. Okay. You talk to somebody, you do something nice for them, um, even if it's just the service that you're providing, right? But you do it well, right? And then at the end, you shake their hand, whatever you feel is the right course to take after that, you know, done. They're happy. That creates trust. That creates a feeling of reliability for that person. But that doesn't create a receipt online that shows you're reliable, does it? It just shows an in-person version of that. Anybody else who witnessed that around you now has the receipt, right? But that stays with them. It doesn't go online unless you get a review from them. So you need to create digital receipts that prove what you have done, so that when people look and go, they've done all this stuff, X, Y, and Z online, social media, reviews. There you go. And you didn't even have to be a part of the conversation. That's the bonus. It's passive, right? So, key takeaway from this, though, to ensure that you are not becoming the bottleneck in this, guys, getting back to that a bit, is to protect your time. Not every task deserves your attention. You got to prioritize what actually moves the needle. And again, that's the customer's communication and visibility. That moves the needle. So think about it this way. You need to focus more on things being done well and less about things being done your way. That creates and builds trust gradually. And more importantly, it actually makes it to where your customers see more consistency because it's not you they need to speak to. It can be your employees, right? It can be the people underneath you that you're guiding and delegating to because now it is more consistent. It's not done your way, it's done well. Okay. And if your employees aren't doing things well, then you need to get another employee. Right. And again, that is difficult, I know, but you don't become the hang up, is the point. So, another thing that a lot of people seem to be having a problem with, especially in relation to employees, and well, that's more of a side note in this next one, but the main point in that is things being more complex and more competition, yada, yada, all these things. Where does AI, artificial intelligence, actually fit then within all of this? Because one of the biggest things I want to point out about AI that a lot of people seem to think about on the internet is that it's a replacement for employees, and it's not. It is not a replacement for employees. So if you think that that's what you're going to get with AI, you need to stop right there immediately because it is not what you think it is. You have been sold a pipe dream. Okay. And that is exactly what it is. You are not going to get a magic fix when it comes to artificial intelligence. Here is what artificial intelligence helps with. Okay. It helps with repetitive tasks. It helps with drafting things out, like getting kind of a preview of what it is you're trying to do. And it really helps with organization. It does not replace judgment, care, and relationships. Okay. So AI can support you in data driven tasks, organization, things that are repetitive, but it can't be you. It's worse than an employee, way worse. Okay. It doesn't understand judgment. Okay. It understands the task and nothing outside of that. And one method that ChatGPT loves to use, if you've noticed and never used it before, is that in order to compensate for its lack of judgment, it over explains massively so. Not only is it going to tell you what you asked it, but it's going to say, this is why this works. And then goes down this rabbit hole of ridiculous amount of information that you never asked for. All right. And that's exactly in response to the complaint that people have of, well, it didn't understand the context of what I'm trying to tell it. Well, part of that's an issue with the user, all right, not putting in enough information and just going like, make, I don't know, podcast now, something like that, right? Or make commercial, and not really specifying the details, which is what you need for AI. Because I want you to internalize this when you're thinking about AI. Trash in, trash out. That's what you get. All right. So don't throw trash in. You know, I think you have to remember too is that because so many people are throwing trash in, the only way that it can compensate is to over explain. So you can tell it not to over explain, and it'll kind of do that. But use ChatGPT 2.0 instead of where it's at now. It's like 5.4 or something like that. I can't remember. But we're far away from 2.0. Use that just for a minute, if you can, and realize just how sparse its responses are. It's come a long way. It's come a long way. Now, while all this is happening internally, there is also something happening externally, guys, that makes things feel harder too. People trust less by default, and for the following reasons. There are more scams than ever online and on the phone and even in person. All right. There's more fake content being put out online, and that's, you can thank AI for that too. uh, More skepticism than ever, of course, because of all that. And people are kind of starting now at a default that is doubt now, not belief. And honestly, I feel that this, and this may be a personality trait of mine, but you know, everybody should have started with doubt when they see something online or in person, anywhere. You know, not that people don't deserve to have the opportunity to disappoint you or to you know, I believe that, but I believe that people definitely should be in a neutral position at all times when something is new and fresh and never been seen before. That includes with people. You know, you should never be just automatically believing in a person just because, well, just because they have a big following online or just because they are introduced to you by somebody. I mean, you may start with a little more credence given to them because maybe the person that, introduced you, you trust and they vouched for them. Sure. But just because a guy on the news said, go look at this thing, because why you should trust the news? I mean, how's that worked out so far? Right. And so come more from a neutral perspective instead. Right. And I think that'll help things not be, you won't get scammed as often. I'll tell you that. You'll be able to recognize fake content a little more. And, showing more skepticism means that people will have to earn your trust a little more, which means they'll actually have to work a little harder, you know, to get their point across. That being said, people are defaulting to that already. So you'd only be joining the bandwagon at that point. And that means that you yourself need to recognize that there is a little more effort that has to be put into the information that you're giving people. And don't make fake content, and definitely don't scam. I don't believe I need to say that, but there we are. So people don't have the skepticism about you. People are also researching a couple lot more too, like I mentioned earlier. They're doing quick searches. They're not diving deep. They're making fast decisions, and they have limited patience, but they are able to search way faster. Okay. There's this thing called zero search. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Zero click search. I'm sorry, zero click search. And if I had to put a name to it or show, I mean, you know what? I'm just going to show it to you. Let's do it that way. So I'm going to share my screen real quick so you guys can see what's going on here. Okay. So let's do a zero click search real quick. Let's do something like, I don't know, Walmart. So if I do a simple Google search of Walmart, you'll notice some things that popped up. First and foremost, you're going to notice, of course, the Walmart website pops up number one. And of course, because their digital presence is off the chain, it's just ridiculous amount of digital presence, right? But what's more important, I think, is off to the right-hand side, you'll notice that there's information such as, well, the brand itself, some images of Walmart, the website itself, descriptions of Walmart, numbers, owners, headquarters, social media profiles. Did you guys even realize this stuff was here? Because it's been here for a while. Even posts on Instagram, social media, ratings, what other people have searched for. This is zero click searching. You're finding out information that you didn't even know existed or didn't know about without having to click on a single link. And here on the main section, you'll notice that there's locations. You'll find a location near you. You can hover over this. It just opens up. You can play. You can move with it. You can zoom in and out. Do you see how this works, guys? It's wild, right? You'll even see products from Walmart without clicking a thing. This is the zero click search. So this is the kind of competition that you have to compete with as a business owner. If you're a retail location or sell general goods, guess what, guys? That's a problem for you. So keep that in mind as we move forward. It is one of the many things about digital presence that we help with at TAF Solutions, and I show it because it is a definitive issue and bringing complexity to your business. And that's why people are researching faster is the key point, because they're getting more without actually having to dive deep. And now there are other signals that matter way more than words, by the way, on top of all that make things complex. People need reviews to be seen when they start looking at people's businesses. It's not a question anymore of whether or not you should have it. You need it. Activity and and responsiveness to that activity is also important, because like, people don't trust what you say, they trust what they see. And if they don't see those receipts, like I said, they ain't trusting you. And of course, consistency now is becoming the difference. That is the answer, by the way. Consistency is becoming the difference. No longer is it about the best business. I'll repeat that. It's not about the best business anymore, guys. It's the most reliable looking one. That's the one that gets chosen now. Because look, people know about Walmart. People know about McDonald's. They recognize the brands. But people don't always trust the brands anymore just because they're big. If they don't look reliable or sound reliable, well, look at what happened to Target. Do you trust Target? You may or may not. Do you trust Walmart? You may or may not. Why not? They're big. They're huge. Why don't you trust them? Because they don't look reliable. Okay. Then maybe you do see it reliable. Maybe somebody watching this is going, well, I don't agree with any of that. Okay. Find a business in your head that you don't trust. If there is one, my point is the same. If you don't trust a business and they're big enough to be recognizable, there's a reason for that. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You should have a little more discernment. Just because something is big and has a big brand name doesn't mean you should trust it. What this guys does actually is a good thing. It's a good thing for small businesses, because now small businesses can have an edge over their big competitors. Because small businesses, they can be real. They can seem real way faster and easier than big business, because big business like Walmart, they have this giant, huge ship and they got to turn a little bit. It's going to take them years to make that turn, to make those changes. As a small business, you can adapt it now within days or even hours sometimes. You can respond super fast and adapt way faster. So, guys, the advantage is still there for you right now. You just have to lean into it online. But that means understanding that you do need to adapt and change some things online for your business. Guys. So, guys, all that to say, if things feel way harder right now, you're not wrong. It is. It's not just you, it's the environment that we're in. Also, say it's partly the economy as well, but it's not just that. On the core level, it is also, even if the economy was doing well, you would have the same situation. You would have an issue with finding employees, and you would also have an issue, reliable employees anyway. And you would also have an issue with the complexities of the business internally and externally. Because this technology it's here to stay. All right. I'm not even talking about AI. That's here to stay too. But just, I believe it's going to go down to a little more tame, tool driven sort of thing, instead of just what we are seeing right now. So, guys, all you have to do is focus on what actually matters and doing it consistently, and that will create what you need. So, that being said, guys, this is Joe Wallace with TAF Solutions, helping you make sense of what's changing so you can keep moving forward. Hope you'll have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Same time, same channels. Take care.